Welcome to the Emily the Mystic Show. You're about to walk through a portal that leads to all things mystical, magical, spiritual, and supernatural. I'm your host, Emily. I'm a spiritual mentor, an Akashic Records practitioner and teacher, an intuition development coach, and a galactic channeler. If you're an old soul on a self-discovery and healing journey, you are in the right place. We'll be diving in deep to some of my favorite mystical topics, including manifestation, past lives, the spirit world, energy, and so much more. Get ready to embrace your inner mystic and live your most authentic life possible. The portal is now open.
And the portal has opened today, my dear friend, to another exciting mystical guest conversation with the incredible Erica. Erica, we are so happy that you are here. Erica of Simply Divine Elements is a spiritual life coach, an intuitive Reiki healer, a hypnotherapist, a psychic medium, and an oracle reader. She offers spiritual support and energy healing for women that are seeking a deeper connection to their soul's purpose while healing and activating their own innate abilities. Welcome, Erica, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. And so the audience can get to know you a little bit better. I would love if you could share with them your astrology, sun, moon, and rising, and what that means to you.
So it's funny. I just found out all of this information, to tell you the truth, a couple of months ago. Obviously, I know I'm a Sagittarius, but the Leo rising and Libra moon. To tell you the truth, I got so much information on my astrology chart that I'm like still absorbing all of the information. So to me, I'm kind of like not really sure if I fall in that category yet of Leo rising, but it very well could be some characteristics. I don't know yet. So that's really where I'm at with finding that information.
Well, that's so cool. And I love it because by the time this episode comes out, we will be just on the edge of Leo season. So I love that you're bringing those energies to the table of that charisma and that charm and just those magnetic qualities that Leo has. So thank you for bringing that special Leo rising energy here. And I would also love to know, Erica, where are you located and what is bringing you joy in your life right now?
I am located in Lakeland, Florida. I would say right now, I feel every year this happens around this time where I just really cultivate more patience and grounding and being very present with my family. So it's definitely like those little moments that, flash before our eyes throughout the whole year. And then in this time of the year for me, it's a very slow down. At least I feel like I need to. So it helps ground me and be very present and attentive to that. So I feel like that's really what's been bringing me joy.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I know for me too, I definitely feel the same way. And I'm excited we're filming this for the listener to know at the end of June. We're heading into July. And I really feel like July is just so much about that, giving us that opportunity to relax and be present with our loved ones. So I'm so glad you're feeling the same way.
Yeah.
And so let's dive in a little bit about who you are. I would love to know what kind of gifts and things do you work with in your spiritual business? And also, how did you get there? What were some of the major things that have led to that moment now?
Yeah. I would say what really has led me to this present moment has been the fact that I stopped shutting down all of my messages from spirit that I've received such a young age, not understanding it then. So really being more connected to and listening to, I feel like being a medium, I wasn't sure what it was. Like I had no idea all these messages. I actually wanted to shut them down at a young age. And so I learned through self-sabotaging, all of that stuff, going through my teens, and then finally realizing that this is a gift that the messages I was receiving weren't to scare me or weren't to, it was aligning with the purpose no matter how much I fought it. And so I feel like when I hit in my like 20s, like late 20s is when I was really understanding that like I had an awakening with a loved one, and I saw more deep reasoning to this connection with God. And because my whole life as a teen, while I was sabotaging and suppressing everything, I actually did not believe in God. Like I had no faith. And the awakening part happened when I was experiencing a loved one that crossed over with me. And I realized I saw an angel, and I have a photo of this. And I never realized how deep and profound that awakening was until I would say a couple of years after is when I was receiving way more information through the dream state too. And I started receiving more and more. And I just was like very curious, of course, of my faith, of all that. And I started connecting and aligning with better people in my life, just really finding more purpose with that. And then eventually I feel like it led me into my second awakening, which was my daughter, really helping me see that if I don't awaken this, I'm not going to be there for her to like grasp it, because she started experiencing, I was seeing things that she was experiencing that I went through. And it's wild because, you know, it took me all my life to be there. And it's like for her, she's going to have that snap of a finger trust connection. So I've been seeing that and letting go of fear too, right? It took me my whole life where I didn't want that for her, my children. So, but particularly her, she really awoken that for me. And the more that I came through with my messages from mediumship, the more I started realizing there were always someone close to me or a friend of a friend. And I just would just divulge anything that I connected with. And I stopped suppressing it. And I feel like I saw the goodness of it. You know, it wasn't a bad thing. And when I say it wasn't a bad thing, I mean, because the experience I had where I was having visitations or dreams of people that were going to pass at a very young age. And I did not want to know when someone was passing, which later on in life, I realized that led me to becoming an end of life doula. It led me to become that transition for people. But at that time, of course, I did not know that. So, you know, I look back and I realize all of it connects the dots to so much and such a deeper meaning. Yeah.
And I can relate to so much of what you shared about wanting to kind of suppress that gift and wanting to push it away, especially because we want to feel normal. We have fear, of course, but we also want to feel normal. We want to be accepted by our loved ones, and we don't want to talk about this. We don't want to feel like the odd one out. So what did that experience look like for you with going through that phase of your life, and what led you to wanting to be open to it again?
Yeah, I feel like I always never fit in. It's always like that weird, like if I thought it and it happens, I'm going to carry that blame. I'm going to carry that guilt. So I feel like not fitting in and just kind of being different for me and like knowing things. It was very awkward for me to be in a normal conversation with people. I just felt like that my whole life, to tell you the truth. And again, I feel when I was roughly in my second awakening, I would say like when I was in my 30s is when I just started realizing that I wanted to live authentically of who I was. And I met my first medium and I realized, oh my gosh, like this is not escaping me. Like I'm not the only weirdo, you know, I didn't know any really. I grew up in Salem, Massachusetts, to tell you the truth too. And I didn't know that. Like my mother never talked to me about it. I know that she's very intuitive. I knew that she, you know, growing up, that's a whole nother topic, all the stuff that I've experienced galactic wise with her and including my child and myself. But no one was around me in my younger years that was. So I think when I first met my first medium was when I was like, oh my gosh, like, I love you.
And it made you feel so seen. I'm sure you were like, oh, all of the puzzle pieces are starting to fit together and it's all starting to make sense.
It was definitely for her to like, and it was interesting because it wasn't even someone that I was close with. It was just someone that I had met in Casadega, Florida, which is like I'm sure you know. And it was life changing for me to
Wow.
meet this woman, like on so many levels. So she confirmed so much for me that I didn't know my whole life, that it was just needed that confirmation.
And so when you started becoming more aware of your gifts and letting go of some of the fear and coming to a place where you felt ready to open that door, what did that journey look like?
When I started to become ready to open that door, that's when I was literally on my own for a while. I feel I didn't reach out. She was there here and there, but like that was really when I kind of tapped into it curiously, like with myself and just really channeling and connecting. And then I started learning and reading, and then I would meet more people. But I will say intuitive Reiki healing, when I became a Reiki master, was when that expanded my gifts, because I had a community physically. It was not online. It was in a local location. And that is thanks to her too. Like I always tell her help and everything, and how it expanded my gifts to receive not only the healing and send the healing, but to receive more messages to be able to connect to someone. Because for a long time in my life, I did not realize, and it took me her to realize that being a medium, that even though I was receiving messages from someone like on the other side, I didn't think I could read somebody unless they were crossed over. So I always told her, I don't know how to read someone that's alive. I can't give you information on someone that's physically here, until I started doing Reiki healing. And that's when I was like, I can read you and pull in your loved one. Like, so it connected all. So that does expand, I believe, someone's gifts for sure when you are a medium, or vice versa. If you're not, it will expand that connection. So the Reiki healing was really helpful for me becoming that.
And just backing up a little bit, because I know we all have different gifts and we all work with different intuitive and psychic senses. With your mediumship, was it that connection with loved ones on the other side? Was that the first thing that really started coming through for you? Has that been the predominant gift for you throughout your whole life? I know you said that you were suppressing messages as a child. Were those messages from loved ones? Like what kind of
Yeah. And I think I missed that part. Yeah. So it was always messages of loved ones in the dream state. So the dreams when I was younger was my escape. Like, a lot of my messages came through to the dream state as a child, teen, as young as I can remember, probably about 8. Um, and because I did lose a lot of people in my life. So it was definitely dream state, because I was consciously suppressed,
Yep.
full not living in any type of alignment, not well. And so consciously they could not come to me. It was obviously in my dream state. So I used that as an escape and connection, and really deep in more dream state, found it really fascinating, and just, held on to that. I feel like if I didn't hold on to that, I probably would have had obviously a less of a connection, but that happens a lot. Obviously the dream state is where we can become so much more easily receptive and connected. So I think for me, it was always a spirit message from a loved one, or someone else's loved one that I never met, but a friend. Um, and that kind of was, that was really where it all started.
And now, as your gifts are more developed and you've been working with them for some time, do you work more with the dream state, or when you are working with a client, are you doing more reading for them in the moment? What does sort of like that combination
Yeah.
of gifts look like now?
So I definitely still get a lot of messages through the dream state collectively, or for particularly one of my clients or someone I know. But of course, when I'm channeling consciously, and now that I'm awake, I know how to do it consciously. I immediately am just channeling spirit, obviously for loved ones, and yes, using clairvoyance is always what I would see. Um, and then I feel secondary would be claircognizant for me, but also clairaudience. So I feel like that those three kind of align, but clairvoyant for me was always what I was always that my strongest to see.
And do you have any memories or stories that you feel called to share that you think the listener would appreciate hearing about your mediumship experiences?
So I think for the reader, like some of that I've had for clients, um, it's been really healing on behalf of people, especially in relationships. So if someone's struggling, not able to move forward in a relationship, if they've lost their husband, I feel like that has been huge lately, where it gives them confirmation. Spirit will like guide them, their loved one will guide them and let them know that like they don't want them to just stop stalling or whatever. If they're dating someone, they're like, it's kind of funny because they're like, oh my gosh, you know what? It feels weird. Well, he's not going to watch you or bother you, but just stuff like that. It's been really helpful for people to move forward with relationships. But I will say this story was pretty amazing on behalf of a mother that lost a child. And this was interesting because it connected with my child, which was so beyond wild. But um, the little girl was about 7, and she kept on telling me, twinkle toes," and she had this like really cool just accessories and just very loved to dress up. And the mother was like, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to go get her shoes that were sparkly that I put on her. And I used to call her Twinkle Toes. In those shoes, before she was cremated, she put her in those, and she's been debating on going to get them. So her confirmation was to go get them. And what was so interesting is when my daughter came home from school that day, she said to me, we got a new elf on the shelf, and his name is Twinkle Toes. And my mouth dropped on the floor. Like my mother was with me, so she knew she was with me. And we both looked at each other and we were just like, what? And so my daughter is extremely expanded and gifted. So, and that is why she is the way she is because it took me, 40 years or so on to connect and to awaken. And it's not for her. It's never been shut down for her.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why my purpose has been expanded, and my reason of why I do this is it soul contracts, right? And that meaning together. Because without her, I couldn't have done it. Without me, she can't. So it was just a very profound realization, not only for that woman, but for me too, because a lot of the time spirit connects us and uses me and my life as like a grounding thing, or teaches me something that I'm just like in this state of just, needing those answers. They do help. They show us that too. It can be very healing. I see a lot of readings where this was very beneficial too. I think this story is interesting because I started seeing, and they started showing me, not every single read, but some particular, like certain souls will show me their transition. And when I started to see their transition, that filled me with so much gratitude. I feel like words can't even really describe, because it wasn't my intention. It was on them. And after one showed me, it was like multiple after and multiple. And I'll never forget those transitions of how they experience it and how they look through that situation, that stage. And there was one particular reading that I did that was showing me the transition, and it was a woman or the daughter, she wanted to connect with her father, and he kept on showing me his transition. This was the first time I've ever seen it. And when I say that, I mean, he's showing me, to give you an image, he's showing me the horizon, like a beautiful sun, orange, gold, beautiful sun, calming waves. And he's walking out into this like path, this like tunnel light. And he's at his peace. He's at his calm. And she was like, oh my gosh, like that is his place. Like that is his place. That's where he's always, to the point where they looked for a hospital to find a window that was near the beach for him, so he could pass near the ocean. And I was just like blown away. But not only that, I kept on saying to her, this is a painting that I can't describe. And she said, oh my gosh. She was like, I have 3 paintings in my living room, can't decide which one to hang on behalf of him. So she ended up sending me the email, a picture of all 3, so I could choose which one so she could hang. And it was that was beautiful, absolutely amazing, because she was like, just so needed those answers, needed that little push to hang one, and didn't know which one. And it was just pretty beautiful and wild.
Oh my gosh. So many things that you shared. I have so many questions for you based on all of that. I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing some specific examples with us, because I know it's always so incredible to hear stories just like that. First of all, just touching off of what you just shared with us about being shown the transition between when we're crossing over to the other side, I would love to know, as a medium, what has this work taught you about the transition and leaving this world and the afterlife? Because I know you said before in your teenage years, you had a really hard time believing. So what now do you believe about that process?
So it's funny because I never believed in reincarnation, probably about maybe 2 years ago, because I could not grasp, how can I communicate with a spirit and a loved one on the other side living, but knowing that they just incarnated into a baby? Like, how can that, so it took me 2 years for spirit to really dive into that and show me, because I am someone that lives by experience. So I do feel that they taught me a lot on reincarnation, and how that works. And not every single soul is incarnated into this earth. So that was another thing where I didn't grasp that concept of other dimensions, right? So there was that. So I think spirit has helped me see so much more in the afterlife, not only obviously as my faith, but like just in trust and knowing and believing and all this stuff. I think it's the reincarnation. And it's wild, is my kids teach me so much stuff, to the point where I am, our Starseed children all around, right? I see them all the time on social media, and I'm just like, oh my God, that's my kids. Like, and it's because we've opened that door. We don't shut it for them. We let them grow, and it's not conditioning, because people will see and look inside and be like, she just said stuff, then they hear it. I do not talk about reincarnation in front of my children. I don't talk about it in front of anyone, really. And secret, like, here in conversation, but not in my house. And they will tell me stuff.
Wow.
Literally the other day said to me that my son said to me that when you die, you go into become a baby. So he's like, I could live to 100 or I could live to 180. He's like, it doesn't matter. I'll turn back into a baby. And he's 6. And I'm like, what? I didn't say that, but I was just like, that's amazing. I love that. So cool. And then my daughter's like, yeah, I believe that. And I know it because this is not our only life.
Yeah.
My daughter is very wise. Was like, I need to pick more on that. Please tell me more. And she's just like, well, when we come here, we forget. So she's saying things, they both said things that took me years to.
That's crazy. I love it.
Yeah.
And just backing up to something you said, because I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Because when you said before, you had a hard time wrapping your head around the concept of someone dying and then reincarnating as a baby, but still being able to communicate with them on the other side as a medium. What do you know about that process or the timeline? I know, of course, there's so many possibilities, so it's not going to be the case for every single soul, but how would you explain that to someone who feels confused by that?
So I absolutely am still discovering and still learning on that. But I will say what I feel and what I've gathered is when I connect with certain spirits, I do feel some of them that have ascended. So some will tell me that show me that they've ascended somewhere else, or some will show me that, hey, by the way, that baby that's in your family, nudge, nudge, like they will bring up babies in the family and say, do you notice anything about this child? It's just like their grandfather or just like whoever. So not every single one does show me that. So I'm gathering this thinking, okay, maybe our souls, right, are not necessarily split, but you can say that they can ascend, right? But still energy still there. That timeline and that life is still there. So that energy that I can tap into, that portal, that connection is still there, but that doesn't mean that they're not somewhere else. So I think that took me a little time to grasp, but I think that's what they're showing me because every single reading is different and every spirit wants to show me something different. And so lately they have been, if like, I kind of know now, you learn obviously from what they're saying. When I do feel that they're bringing up a child, I'm like, okay, but it's a different feeling. It's not, I want to talk about the child of like saying I miss them or I want to show them that I'm there. It's more of a, don't you notice something about them? That's something about me. Like, oh yeah, oh my God, he just looks exactly like you, or he says this one thing that's just like my father. So that makes me feel like this timeline and portal is still there with her father, but yet he could very well incarnate into a new timeline. But right. So it gets a little, like, I still have so many questions as I say it,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the cool part about doing this work is you're always learning something new. I mean, I would say the way that I look at it, and I know this is a little bit confusing, but a reminder that energy is multidimensional and we are multidimensional beings. So we can, when our soul crosses to the other side, we exist in the astral plane as energy. And so as a medium, we can communicate with the energy and the consciousness of our loved one. And their consciousness, which is connected to their soul, can also move on to a different reality, whether that be as a spirit guide or maybe their next earthly life or whatever they choose to do. So thinking of it in terms of that energetic consciousness, I think can be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about raising starseed children and what you have learned about raising intuitive kids. So, because I know a lot of my listeners are moms with kids and are kind of learning along the way of how can I help my kids be open to their intuition without, like you said, conditioning or programming them with the spiritual belief system, right? So what guidance or what tips would you share with a mom who would love to learn more about that?
Yeah. So one thing I've learned is that I let them, like, I'm curious when they ask questions, but I don't obviously, like, I just say, tell me more about that. Or I love that idea. That's so, like, you're so creative. Wow. That's amazing. But I will say one thing that I do, because they teach me a lot, but in the evenings, I do Reiki healing on them pretty much almost every night, or I'll do an energy clearing. And now that doesn't mean that I have to explain and say everything I'm doing to them. Now, my son is sometimes I do. So my son, I will call on Archangel Michael. He does like Archangel Michael. So I like to make sure that they're connected, protected while they're sleeping. So I'm big on that. So I will say helping your child connect at night. So just doing those simple techniques of intentional setting, it does help to calm them and obviously clear them. And with my daughter, I will do we do listen to guided meditation. She does like to hear them. She likes to do Reiki on me. Like she likes, I think that it's important with energy clearing, and protecting so they don't feel, I feel like just that's big in my opinion for the starseeds. So just making sure that they understand the basics of energy and clearing and that low frequencies, clearing that before bed is so important because they're empaths. And a lot of the times, as it's like they get stuck. So that would be my recommendation. But, and one thing that I do, and I think the crystal healing has been, I'm sure, with every child. But my daughter, you want to hear something cool, is my daughter actually got me into crystal healing by my dream state. Okay. So
tell us about that. Wow.
So I would say about 3 years ago, I started having dreams with her. So we would meet in the astral realm. Now, wild. I'd wake up and we always talk about our dreams. She always tells me, her dreams, we always talk about. I remember dreaming, seeing the crystals. We walked into a shop. She picked them out for me, 3 crystals. Well, I woke up the next morning and she goes, "Mommy, oh my gosh, I went to a crystal shop and you picked out 3 rocks and you put them right here on my dresser." And I was like, "Oh my God."
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy. So at that point, I knew that we were astral traveling. And then after that, this was when I started doing Reiki healing, by the way. So this is when expansion happened in my dream state. I started being shown, she would come to me in my dreams when I was healing people in my dreams, and she was the one giving me crystals. I never knew anything about a crystal, never knew any of them. So she would come to me and bring me specific crystals for people that I was healing in my dream state. And so, of course, I'd have to wake up and look it up. What crystal is this? Is this made up? Nope, that's labradorite, that's citrine, like these are real crystals. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So she taught me crystals through the dream state and healing. And so she is a big healer. She's a huge crystal fanatic. So yeah, that was a pretty wild experience. So I think our kids teach us stuff, but I also like to make sure that I let them expand what's best for them and what fits them in the Starseed community, because a lot of her friends might not be that way. Mm-hmm. So I also want to make sure that she knows acceptance and that you're not everyone's going to be like that, because I think that's another key factor in that teaching, or not teaching, but helping your child get through those stages. Because yes, it's important to expand it, but it also, like, you have to have that reality of, hey, not everyone's going to be like that. Thankfully, we have not came to that yet. They're still young, but it's all about healing in her path and their path. And they're going to be exactly where they need to be. And they're going to meet exactly who they need to meet to heal and help. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I just had a crazy light bulb moment as you were speaking that I have to tell you, which is wild. So for the audience to know, Erica, a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, hosted a mediumship and dream work workshop for me and my membership. And around the time of the workshop, Erica messages me on Instagram and she says, "I had a dream. And in the dream, you and I were doing breath work together." That's right?
Yes.
We were doing breath work.
Oh, yes.
So today, Erica, we're having our interview together. Guess what is happening in the membership today, this afternoon at 2:00? We are doing a breathwork journey in the membership.
Oh my gosh. Wow. And we even
So,
changed our date.
and we even had to change the date for this interview.
Yeah.
So your higher self knew that this this conversation was all divinely orchestrated and divinely timed exactly when it needed to be.
That is wild. I love it. Love it.
Now, one thing that's kind of nudging me to ask you about, I would love to hear your thoughts on soul contracts in terms of relationships that we have with people. For example, from what you've shared, it sounds like your relationship with your daughter, we can kind of come to the conclusion that you have a soul contract with her to really heal each other. You're here to teach her things. She's here to teach and heal you. So how do you look at that with your work in terms of relationships, the people that we meet, and how that's all a big part of our journey here?
Yeah. So I definitely found out through hypnotherapy, a deep hypnotherapy session, of being the reason why we incarnated, and it was definitely to help and heal, because we never had that option in our other lives together as far as like support. So I do believe that is the reason for our connection. And that was the biggest reason for my awakening, and to be fully embracing of my gifts to be able to help others as well. I think when you are connecting in any relationship with anyone around you, you always want to kind of, you don't really have to go into hypnotherapy, but you always want to go back and see, well, what am I not learning from this relationship? Because that helped me understand relationships with, for example, with my son. I did not go into hypnotherapy and didn't receive anything necessarily from him, but I did find some wild things about connecting in the Akashic records for him. And so things like cultivating more patience, things that I never even knew that I needed in my life, is that's our contract. That is between him and I. And so I think finding that really helps obviously build relationships and connections, and just a deeper sense of knowing. And it gives so much more value when you approach the relationship, and how to react, how to respond, right? And how to approach it. So I think it probably has something to do with the human design. I think that someone was mentioning to me about human design, how helpful it is to be able to approach people and relationship wise. I don't know much about it, but yeah. So am I answering your question? I feel like maybe I'm getting off track.
No, that's super helpful. I
Okay.
think it's just good to know and have the understanding that we will meet the people that we need to meet, for our highest path. They will come into our life however they need to, whether it be in the form of our kids or a romantic partnership or a friendship, business connection. And yeah, just kind of looking at it that we will find our way to the people
Yeah,
who need us and who we need as well.
absolutely. No, I absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
And getting back onto the topic of dreams for a moment, I would say one of the biggest questions that I get asked, and, there's only so much I can say about this, but one of the questions I get asked all the time is, Emily, I can't remember my dreams. I have such a hard time remembering my dreams. How do you remember your dreams? So what advice would you give someone who would like to work with dreams more
Yeah.
often?
So usually that type of person that's asking that question, or someone that can't remember their dreams, is because they're saying they can't remember their dreams. So you tell yourself something, eventually it's going to happen. So with someone like that, it would have to really be conscious during the day. I am going to remember my dream. My dreams are helpful for me, and I need to know that message. I will hear that message or see that message tonight. So like that, like, as I'm telling you this, my whole crown is tingling. Like, that is power in shifting your conscious. And I believe in that power during the day with people when they say they can't do something. It's the same as law of attraction. It's that manifest. It's all together. And consciously, if you are not awake during your day, you're not going to be able to sleep at night to hear anything. So connecting that together is really that full alignment. And that is going to be also something where I would touch base on with lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming, or even not getting like sleep hygiene. So if someone's not getting sleep hygiene, or you're not having that healthy mental state in the day, you're not most likely going to have these vivid, informative dreams, because your sleep pattern has to be the same. It has to be, and your conscious mind has to be awakened. So you can remember your dreams, and you do. And I would highly recommend, when people say that, is to shift their thoughts throughout the day. Obviously journaling, affirmations, clearing all those low limitations, because there's obviously a reason why someone says they can't do something, going into that root of why you feel you can't and you're not good enough or you're not worthy enough is really what I would say.
I mean, it's so true. What I tell my Akashic Records students is, if you have a belief that you can't access the Akashic Records, you will prove yourself right every
Absolutely.
single time. So it's all about what you believe. And like exactly like what you said, if you have a belief that you can't dream, then you're going to prove yourself right.
Yeah, because for the longest time, I would say about like 8 months, when I learned Akashic Records, I could not get into my Akashic Records, and I was like so frustrated, and I'm like, why? I can't do this. It's just not for me. Like, I'm just not able to. I can't, I said all those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually I let it go, and I just changed that thought. And it's like, oh my gosh, I've been in it the whole time and channeling. I had no idea.
I feel like that's what happens for a lot of people, as they discover, oh, I've actually been in there.
Yeah. And I'm like, I had no idea. No clue.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And when it comes to interpreting your dreams the next day, what do you recommend? Let's say we have a really vivid visual dream. How would you go about decoding it?
So the first thing I would have to say is you have to remove your logic mind. There is no logic in the dream state. It's all symbols, just like mediumship. When you do receive a symbol, it very well could mean completely different. So removing your logic mind and really accessing your intuition before you go to decipher anything. How you feel. So if someone's working on their intuition, I would probably go more of like, not so much of your clairvoyant or your clairaudient, or maybe just like, what emotions are you feeling during the day, in your conscious day? What are you struggling in your conscious day? And this is a big one. A lot of people are like, oh my God, I dreamed of my ex. That doesn't mean that they're like, they want you to call them. It's like, no, maybe you're healing something in that timeline of your ex that they need you to see. And they're using that X as a symbol for that timeline of how you felt. So you could be shedding things that no longer serving you, but dreaming of your ex. So it's really about feel, not so much of the reality of the dream and the logic behind it. That's what I would definitely give advice on, as far as the waking up first thing and being like, oh my gosh, that's whatever the dream is. So
Yeah, that's so helpful. And I think trying to remember to write things down too, because then you
Yep.
can look back and see some of the patterns with what was going on in your waking life versus what you dreamed about that night.
Absolutely. Writing them down is so important. Writing them down. Even if if you wake up throughout the night, I would say, like, waking up in the middle of the night, if you have to go to the bathroom, or if you wake up, it's so important to be like, oh, what was my dream? Like, if you really want to learn, You wake up and you think about it. It's on your mind. You read about dreams before bed. Stuff like that really helps you remember. It's in there. It's planting that seed. So
Yeah, and I think you gave us that tip during our mediumship and dream work workshop in the membership, which was to really try to consciously set the intention to recall it,
yeah.
especially if you are waking up in the middle of the night and just really trying to focus your energy on remembering it then and there. You're more likely to remember the dream when you wake up versus if you were to just get up, use the bathroom, go back to sleep, you're probably going to forget.
Yes. And another thing too is what I found for people is talking about your dreams. Even if you kind of vaguely remember, you'll start to remember as you speak about it. So even just being like, oh yeah, I remember I saw a cat. Oh, okay. And then that comes back and then that comes back and it just gets more and more. So talking about it with people is huge.
I love all of this guidance so much. And I would love to know, what do you have going on in your business right now? What are you working on? How can people work with you? What do you have to share
Yeah.
with us today?
Yeah, I have been right now just kind of enjoying the present moment, but I still do have my mentorship, mediumship mentorship program where we grieve, heal, and grow. So really getting back the layers, tapping into your intuition, really learning how to connect with your loved ones. So that is a program that I offer, as well as the spiritual coaching and intuitive energy healing certificate course that I offer as well. So I still have those up for the summer, and I have something else that will be coming up that I'm not really gonna. We'll find something new next. We'll
Mhm.
see.
And do you do mediumship readings?
I do. I do a lot of mediumship pretty much every day. Mediumship readings, intuitive energy healings. Yes.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And where
Yeah.
can people find you?
Simply Divine Elements, and I have Gmail. I'm Gmail. Instagram. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, all that social media fun.
Perfect. I could just talk to you all day, Erica. I feel like you have so
Yeah.
much good
I know.
wisdom and
Well,
insight.
I have so much to say too. I feel like we need to have another
We
conversation on
will,
galactic.
yes.
Can we do that one? Because I'm like, that would be, I feel like every time I have any galactic things, I go to you.
I know. Yes. Yes, we will have you on another episode and we'll go deep into the galactic realm. How about that?
I love that. Love it.
Perfect. Is there anything else that you feel called to share that we didn't touch on?
No, I feel like I got it all out.
Good. So to wrap us up, I would love to know, what does it mean to you to be a mystic?
When I hear that, immediately it's imagination. It's imagination. It's being childlike, going into that center. It's really diving into an open center, not closed box. I feel like that's when you can really learn to tap into your true essence, is opening this box of just that's been closed for so long. So I think of imagination, because I think when we reach a certain point, our imagination is diffused. And so I feel big and strong on teaching imagination, because that's how you access all.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I am so huge on that. And whenever a client comes to me and says, well, I think I'm just imagining this, it's not
Good.
real. I'm like, good. Yeah, it is real. Your imagination is real. So start believing in it.
Exactly. It's confirmation on things that because I feel like I've always had this huge, crazy imagination. That's probably why I felt off, right? So I'm sure you too, because we're not supposed to at a certain age, but it's like, no, I don't ever want that to stop. So that is something I don't want to ever close for anyone, and no adult should have to.
Mhm.
So
So true. And what tips would you give the listener for living a more mystical life?
exactly what I just said. Don't ever stop closing your imagination. go into imagination with open curiosity and just live in that center. Don't let others dictate how your imagination should be, because that's obviously something we all encounter. And I just feel like it's important to remember that your imagination is literally coming from source, but from you, your true essence. And you can't forget that when you're connecting. You're not making it up. It's not fake. It's more than you could ever imagine. And it's something that's given to us that we close. And I just hope you all remain it open, because it's very important.
So true. I love ending on that note. So beautiful and so beautifully said. Well, thank you, Erica, for this amazing divine conversation today. We'll make sure to have you on in the future again, and we can dive into more topics. So thank you, everyone. And the portal is now closed. And before we close the portal today, I have a very exciting announcement to share with you, which is that my brand new mini course, 10K Vibes Instagram Mastery for Spiritual Entrepreneurs, is now available for purchase on my website. I cannot wait to bring this powerful mini course to you, all about helping you increase your visibility, grow your Instagram following, and help you get seen on social media for doing your incredible spiritual work as a spiritual business owner. So, as some of you know, I have grown my following on Instagram a lot over the last few months, and it has been such a fun journey. And so many of you have reached out to me to ask, well, Emily, how did you do it? What are some of the strategies that you used? Was there a visibility energetics piece to things? How did you get to where you are now with your following? And so I thought that I would combine all of my wisdom, tips, tricks, knowledge, and even some really cool meditations into a powerful virtual mini course that is totally self-paced. So you can purchase it at any time. You can go at it on your own pace, and you will really see the impact of following both a spiritual Instagram business strategy as well as doing what you can to shift your energy from a visibility point of view in order to help you be seen for doing the work that you are here to do. So I can't wait for you to check out this incredible course. The information is below in the show notes. You're going to love it. I hope you enjoy the journey and have fun.